Hello everyone, welcome to today's webcast. Today we will be talking about enhancing insurance broker channel management with business intelligence. My name is Amanda Teschko, and I'm joined today by my colleague Alaistair Jones. We're both business intelligence and analytics consultants working for Thorogood, and we're joining today's webcast from our Philadelphia office. In terms of an agenda for today's webcast, we're going to start out by providing some background on Thorogood. We'll then jump into an overview of the broker-underwriter relationship and really explore some of the reporting and analytics related challenges that a number of our insurance customers find when considering how they leverage broker data. We'll then spend the bulk of the time really taking you through a series of demonstrations which leverage a range of BI and analytics technologies to really showcase how we've worked with customers to address some of those challenges and derive meaningful business insights from their broker and underwriting information. So to start, for those of you who don't know Thorogood, we're an independent global professional services firm. We specialize in business intelligence and analytics, strategy, solutions, and services. We have a keen focus on our customers. We are a global company, so we have offices in New York, Philadelphia, London, Bangalore in India, Singapore, and Sao Paulo, Brazil. All of our consultants are recruited and trained in the same way across the globe, and we do that to develop a unique mix of skills, blending both business understanding in the form of industry and functional expertise with strong technical aptitude and deep understanding for analytical tools and techniques. We do offer a range of BI and analytics services, so everything from strategies and roadmaps through to implementation, as well as training and support. Our clients typically span 4 data-rich verticals, so insurance, consumer goods, pharma and health services, and banking. And our clients are some of the leading organizations in these sectors. We take a lot of pride in the long-standing relationships we've fostered with many of the names that you see here. And these names will give you a sense of some of the customer examples we're drawing from when we talk you through some of our demonstrations today. Because today's event is focused on insurance, I thought I'd share just some of the areas where we've worked with customers on their insurance needs. We have helped our customers strategize and implement solutions across a range of different topic areas and really spanning all parts of the insurance business, so claims, underwriting, finance, and actuarial. In terms of technologies, we are an independent consulting firm, and that we don't work with just one technology. Rather, we partner with many key players in the market. And we really focus on the integration of these technologies, particularly in an enterprise environment. In the demonstrations that we're going to share with you today, we are going to highlight 3 technologies. And so I'll give you just a little bit of background on those technologies before you see them. So the first one we're going to be showcasing today is Alteryx. Alteryx is really an end-user data preparation and advanced analytics tool. You'll see it's got a bit of a drag-and-drop interface, and we'll use this in our first demonstration today. It does come in desktop and also server-based products for larger implementations. Then we'll take a look at Tableau, which is one of the leading advanced visualization and data exploration tools. We'll show you some reporting and dashboard capabilities that can be done in Tableau. Tableau also comes in a desktop tool or a server tool for kind of more widespread adoption. There are also some cloud-based offerings that Tableau offers, and there's a pretty new tool that allows you to do some data, a little bit more advanced data preparation in Tableau as well that can be purchased separately. And then the last tool we'll look at today is Power BI, so a tool that we've seen quite a bit of hype around in the market at the moment. Power BI is kind of an all-encompassing, user-focused data preparation, modeling, and reporting tool. It also has reporting and dashboarding capabilities, which we'll show you today. And Power BI can be downloaded as a free version, so if you want to just download the desktop tool and play around with it, you can do that at the Microsoft website. There is also a cloud-based service offering, which we're seeing more of our enterprise organizations adopt to be able to share the insights found in Power BI more widely. So that's just a little bit of a primer on those technologies. When Alaistair talks you through the 3 demonstrations today, you'll get a little bit more of a feel for those. So now that you have a bit of background on Thorogood and the technologies we'll see today, I figure we'll get started by really thinking about the types of interactions that brokers might have with insurers. And that will really depict some of the challenges that we see insurers face. So though different types of insurers may use brokers differently, what we find is that in many organizations, what exists between the insurer and the brokers are really a series of back and forth exchanges of information on a range of topics. So, for example, oftentimes a customer will come through the broker channel and express interest in a product that the insurer offers. The broker will need to communicate this to the insurer by sharing those submissions. The broker will also be collecting a lot of information from the potential customer at this point that will help the insurer be able to kind of quote that policy appropriately. And then the information that the insurer kind of puts together on the quote needs to kind of go back through that broker channel. And then brokers will then kind of respond back with any policies that have been bound. And so there's really a series of back and forths that happen here. And as that's going on, it kind of creates some complex data trails. And that's really because each broker might have different systems in place and different processes that they use for collecting that information. They may have different ways of capturing the information and then sharing it back with the insurer. The lack of standardization around how brokers interact with the insurer can present some data challenges. And so that first challenge we're going to look at in our demonstrations today is going to be that one. How do we align data across those brokers so that it becomes more usable for the insurer? And then another challenge that we're going to look at today is once that data has been aligned from the brokers, how do you ensure that it also gets aligned with data that resides within the walls of the insurer? So, for example, we may want to track claims against policies that were sold through the brokers, and all of our claim information might exist internally within a data warehouse. We may also need systems such as CRM systems or Salesforce, for example, to store information that's needed so that we can properly manage those broker relationships, or workflow systems, so a system that might help us see where policies are in the process as they move from being submitted to quoted to being bound. And working out how insurers incorporate the internal data that resides within their organization with that external data coming from the brokers in order to provide meaningful reporting is the second challenge that we'll take a look at today. So now that we've taken a little bit of a look at that relationship, I'm going to hand it over to Alaistair. And Alaistair is going to take us through a couple customer scenarios where we've been able to help some different insurers overcome some of the challenges related to broker data.
Thanks, Amanda. So the first challenge that we're going to address today is that challenge of working with external data. This is a data challenge that organizations across industries face, and within insurance it's relatively common when dealing with external data provided by brokers. I'll walk through a use case that we're familiar with from a recent initiative with a client. They received disparate data in spreadsheets from brokers with varying standards for data structure and organization. There was a need to collate data on policies these brokers were selling. This was being handled manually and was an incredibly time-consuming process. The types of varying data standards were widespread. On the right-hand side of the slide, I've captured some examples of different approaches to date formatting, for example, denoting names and geographic locations. It was also useful to organize the data prior to being loaded into a database. With the advent of new regulations, such as GDPR, it's also critical to have a process that minimized human interaction with personal data. The vision for a solution was an automated system that handled the common data disparities, logged errors in the data, and organized the data for downstream reporting. So Alteryx is a great candidate tool to meet this need. One of Alteryx's strengths is its ability to transform and prepare data. Alteryx is used as the technology for ingesting various inputs, applying rules and transformations, and creating output files that adhere to data standards. So I'm going to start with a simple end-to-end example in Alteryx of how inputs from different brokers with varying standards can be consolidated, cleansed, transformed, and then output in a format that works for an insurer to store or upload their data to a data warehouse. I'll then showcase a more robust application with advanced features to give a sense for what an enterprise solution could look like. So this is the Alteryx interface. A specific workflow in Alteryx is comprised of various components called tools that either import, transform, or output the data that is passed through the application. These tools are available from this top-hand interface here and can simply be dragged and dropped into place where and as desired. Alteryx can work with a host of types of input and output data sources, from text files to CSV, Microsoft Excel and Access files, to Amazon Redshift, Microsoft SQL platforms or Hadoop databases, or external sources such as Twitter, just to name a few. For the purposes of today's demonstration, I'm an analyst at an insurance company who operates through brokers with delegated authority to sell policies. Each month we're provided with a list in Excel of policies that the broker has sold. And while these spreadsheets capture similar information, each broker has their own standard for data capture in some regards. So I'll now jump to some of the spreadsheets that were provided by the brokers. So the first broker input sheet that we've been provided here is by a broker called Bu, captured in the kind of broker column here. The product that they're selling is listed as Prof Indem, which is short for professional indemnity. So that's how they capture the product. The insured state is typed out in full in this column here. The policy effective date is captured in month, day, year format, and the limit is captured in parentheses. I'll now take a look at another spreadsheet that we were provided by a second broker. This broker is called Axon in our example, and they captured the product with a two-letter abbreviation for professional indemnity, PI. They denote the state with a two-letter abbreviation as well. Dates are captured in year, month, day format, and the limit is a positive amount. Flipping to a third broker input from our broker Hughes, we can see that they also use the two-letter abbreviation for products. They do type out the state of the insured address in full. They capture dates in year, month, day format, and limits are also a positive amount. So returning to Alteryx, even between these three pretty simple spreadsheets provided by brokers, we can begin to identify differences in how the data is formatted. Now, my insurer needs to consolidate this data from external brokers, but also apply basic rules so that all the data is formatted in the same manner and sorted, ready for reporting and to be uploaded to our data warehouse. Rather than going to the effort of kind of manually compiling this information, which could be human error prone and time consuming, we've built an Alteryx workflow to handle this work. So my first step with this Alteryx workflow is to add an input data tool. Again, these could be from a variety of data sources, but in this instance we're receiving Excel spreadsheets from brokers, so the input tools are indicated with these kind of green book icons on the left. The rows from these spreadsheets are then consolidated in Alteryx using a union tool here. Alteryx allows for data to be seamlessly combined via appending fields, joining and unioning rows via native tools. The next step in my Alteryx workflow is this formula tool here. The formula tool is a relatively ubiquitous and powerful interface in Alteryx that allows users to type commands to update data or add additional columns to data based upon conditions being met. So a formula tool can also contain multiple formulae in one hop. The first formula I've captured here updates the product column. So since I know that the broker Bu often captures product as Prof Indem as opposed to the two-letter abbreviation PI, I've implemented a rule that translates that spelling into the abbreviation PI. For my other brokers, this data will remain unchanged as it's already captured correctly. I could also use a mapping spreadsheet, for example, to handle common alternate spellings, as we'll see is used for states. I have a couple of other simple formulae to update data in the other columns that we noticed were slightly different, but I'd like to call out the final formula here in this step, as this adds a new column. This adds a new column that's kind of a limit flag and simply denotes any policy with a limit in excess of 5 million with a flag of 1, so I can quickly begin to see what my high-risk policies are. Next, I get to a point in the workflow where I bring in another data source, so that green book icon here is a state mapping that contains kind of a view of state names and state abbreviations side by side. I use this along with a find and replace tool to kind of map where I have full state names from my source files to their two-letter abbreviations. So this updates the data wherever this is the case. A similar approach of data mapping could be taken to any or multiple columns that are commonly captured in different ways. Finally, once this data has been standardized via rules and data mappings, the data is then ordered via this sort tool in terms of descending premium from highest to lowest. Again, this could be based on any or multiple columns, so it could be ordered by policy effective date and then descending premium, for example. The data is then output. This Alteryx workflow could be connected to a database and spat directly into a data table, but in this case, we export the data into an Excel file. I'll quickly run this workflow by hitting Control R. And we can see that while this is a simple workflow, it executes in a matter of milliseconds. So I'll now take a look at the output file that was produced. And we can begin to see that a lot of the transformations, the desired transformations, have been applied to the data. So the limit is now all denoted as positive. I have insured states denoted with their 2-letter abbreviations. The limit flag column has been added. So I'll now quickly showcase kind of a more complex and robust Alteryx solution that's been implemented to meet client needs, kind of cycles through data inputs found in a particular folder, and then leverages various Alteryx tools to cleanse, transform, and produce the desired data output, and includes some error handling. So this is the type of solution that we've helped develop for customers, but it's set up to be easily and readily maintainable by business users. The beginning of this Alteryx workflow contains a macro that's used to cycle through all of the kind of individual files that are stored in a common folder location. We also have another of other input files below that are used for data mapping. So where I had just one file for state abbreviation mapping, you could include multiple mapping files for commonly captured in different way columns. There are then a number of transformations and functions that apply rules to the data, flag any errors in the data. This is quite an involved process. And by the end of the process, we get to kind of 2 different junctures with our data. There's a correct output path and an error output path. The error output path allows the insurer to have kind of those records that did not adhere to data standards that were commonly expected from the brokers. This could be fed back to the brokers. But the output is sorted and organized and ready for upload. So focusing on one specific enhanced piece of functionality that could be built in Alteryx and has been added to this workflow. This Alteryx package handles policies that are sold in the UK, and using the Google Maps API, this workflow cross-references addresses included in rows of data and maps the address to a postcode. So I'll now jump to Excel and see an input file. So this input file contains a couple of rows of data with UK addresses and postcodes. You'll note that the postcodes here are identical despite the addresses being different. So if I return to Alteryx, the functionality in here, if I execute the package, the functionality here should allow for Alteryx to call the Google API and cross-reference the address, find out the correct postcode, and if I now reference the output data file, again in a matter of seconds that more complex workflow can be run. And if I reference the output file, we can see that the postcodes have been updated according to the address contained in the data. So this is kind of an example of a more robust enterprise solution. Alteryx is a powerful tool that can be used in many ways to combine, transform, and validate external data for the purposes of storage and reporting. It can be made as simple or complex as desired and is required for the business use case. So now that we've kind of incorporated external data sets into our system, it's time to address and focus on another challenge, and that is maximizing the return on this data by visualizing broker and underwriter performance. So in terms of addressing the use case of combining internal and external broker data for reporting, we've built a suite of broker reports for a property and casualty insurer that serve various purposes. Their business need was to leverage the ingested data that they'd invested in capturing and storing in a central repository to help them make more data-driven decisions. The reports had to be clear and concise so that they could be easily digested by senior business stakeholders. The data in the reports had to be accurate and the insights they provided valuable. The reports also served different purposes and were intended for different audiences. The vision was a complete suite of reports that were built with users' interests in mind and an understanding of existing data to meet their varying reporting needs. To meet this business need, a reporting tool such as Tableau or Power BI, which we'll showcase today, can be used to report on data that is stored in a CRM platform, a data warehouse, a workflow system, or other ad hoc sources such as Excel files. These reports can take a variety of forms to meet different needs. So one type of report that could be created, combining data from a number of sources, including a CRM system or workflow system and a data warehouse, is a broker fact sheet or similar structured report that provides a view for one given broker of their performance. This could be used for an internal discussion about a particular broker, to provide context for a meeting with a broker, or generated as part of a regularly scheduled broker review meeting. So this fact sheet has been created in Tableau. I'm currently showcasing it in Tableau version 2018.1. That's the desktop offering of Tableau. So the broker fact sheet is specific to a particular broker. Right now I have the report focused on BEW, which is reflected both by the filter in the top right-hand corner of the dashboard as well as the header of the dashboard. I could update this via a drop-down to see a view of another broker I work with. So say for today's demo, JB Group. Again, this is reflected both in the filter and at the top of the dashboard. So the top left portion of the dashboard provides a view of broker contacts. If I hover over or click on a particular contact here, I can see their name, and I'm also prompted with a URL action to go to Salesforce. By clicking on Go to Salesforce, a web browser will be opened to that contact Salesforce page. I also have a view of which brokers are currently active and which brokers are inactive. They're grayed out in the case of this dashboard. This data is fed directly from a CRM platform. In this case, the data is coming from Salesforce. Below the broker contacts section in the bottom left, I have a view of premium for the current and prior year by the different lines of business that I write, in addition to a view of the total premium this and last year that the selected broker contributed. This provides an answer to what exactly the broker was most involved with in terms of products we sell and how that's trending year on year. There's a filter action built into this visualization. So if I click on a certain line of business, let's say casualty, the rest of the dashboard is updated accordingly just to show a subset of data pertinent to that product. So just the brokers involved with casualty and the new versus renewal split associated with that line of business. Deselecting this data reverts back to the original view of the dashboard. The top right-hand side of the dashboard begins to provide a view of key performance indicators for the broker. In the top row, we have a view of data from the workflow system, so the policies that are in flight at various stages of the workflow. Received, quoted, the implied ratio, therefore, of percent quoted, the number of bound policies, and then the implied bound percentage. Below this below this top row of workflow information, at the top right-hand side of the dashboard, we begin to get a view of key performance indicators for the broker. So we get data on the kind of share of gross written premium, as well as policy count that broker accounts for. In both cases, this is up on last year, as indicated by the green upward-facing arrow. To the right of that, we have a view of the rank or the relative performance of brokers in terms of premium. So we can see that JB Group is now our number one ranked broker in terms of gross written premium. We can hover over the green upward-facing arrow that indicates this is up on last year, and we can see that the rank is they are now our top-ranking broker. Last year, they were our 12th highest-ranking broker. We also have information on the expected loss ratio, which is at 90%. A green downward-facing arrow indicates that this is a good thing, as the expected loss ratio is down, and we can see that that's down from 98% last year. And finally, at the bottom of the dashboard, we have a view of the share of business that's new versus renewal business, both this and last year. Hovering over these charts, the tooltip kind of produces a view of the associated amount with each breakout. So this is just one example of a structured broker fact sheet that provides a single view of brokers' performance. Different data can be incorporated and visualized to different effects, depending on what's important to your business. And this is just one type of report that we can produce on top of broker or data that's generated during insurer-broker interactions. I'll now jump to another type of report that was built in a different technology, that being Microsoft Power BI. So this report has been published to the Power BI service, which is Microsoft Power BI's online offering that allows for distribution of and access to reports across the organization. Tableau has a similar offering in Tableau Server and Tableau Online. Similarly, Power BI also has a desktop application that's useful for creating reports, aptly named Power BI Desktop. So this report serves a different purpose for the organization. It's more of a dynamic cross-broker performance tracking dashboard. It provides a view of last year's year-to-date data so as to include some claims data alongside premium, policy count, and policy count measures, as well as commissions data. This data could be, and likely will be, sourced from various systems. At the top of the report, I'm able to select from different measures to view the dashboard by. So I could view brokers by loss amount, but for the purposes of today's demo, I'll return to a view of gross written premium to drive the kind of initial analysis. So the top row here shows a tree map view of brokers sized by premium that they contributed and colored by their relative loss ratios. And if I hover over them, I can begin to see a tooltip that indicates the selected measure as well as their loss ratio. This dashboard is dynamic in that if I click on a broker, log group, for example, my largest premium contributor, I can see the rest of the dashboard update in turn. Below to the left, I can see a high-level view of critical measures such as premium, losses, commission amount, and policy count. To the right, I can see the products that this broker sells and contributes premium towards. In this case, log group is most heavily involved in marine insurance. If I deselect the broker, I can be reverted to my original view. And I can also use the products a broker sell, this graph down here, to filter the rest of the dashboard. So if I'm responsible for casualty products, for example, I can click on that and the rest of the dashboard will be updated accordingly. I can now see that my largest broker contributors are BMS Group, Marsh, and AA Insurance Services. At the bottom of my dashboard, I have two charts. One's a simple pie chart that provides a breakout of new versus renewal business. The other provides a view of premium or any other measure that has been selected over time and how that broker contributes relatively as a proportion of the total business I'm writing. A core visual feature in Power BI is that if I select new business in this bottom left chart, for example, I can see how much of the rest of the graphs are filled by new business premium. So I can begin to see that log group, that proportion is filled, that's new business premium that they're writing. So I'm interested now in taking a view of JLT Group as they're one of my largest premium contributors, but they have a relatively large loss contribution, which is immediately apparent in the tree map as they're colored with the kind of more orange color here. So if I select JLT Group and then the loss amount measure in the top here, I can begin to see a more detailed breakout of how this measure is trending. And if I look at the bottom right chart here, I can see that the proportion of losses associated with JLT Group has picked up substantially last year in May, June, and July. So this could be cause for further investigation or concern when considering future and ongoing work with JLT Group. So this dashboard could be constructed with filters available via drop-downs rather than the actions driven from the visualizations. Different chart types of views of data could be used depending on what's important to the business. But this begins to give a sense of the types of cross-broker analysis that can be done on top of internal and external ingested data that an insurer has at their disposal. So to kind of conclude today's presentation, we've taken a look at the broker and underwriter relationship, the reporting and analytics challenges it presents, but also the data that's generated during the interaction between brokers and underwriters. We've demonstrated a bit about how a tool like Alteryx could be used to align external data that is received in different formats from various brokers, and how tools like Power BI or Tableau, so front-end visualization tools, can be used to combine the internal and external data that you have at your disposal for meaningful reporting on broker performance. You can also find out more via our on-demand content that's available on our website. You can filter down to a specific area of interest. So, for example, you could hone in on Power BI, Tableau, or Alteryx by clicking on those if you're interested in learning more on the topic, some of the kind of technologies that we covered during today's session. Thank you for attending today. Feel free to reach out to either myself or Amanda with any questions that you may have. You can contact us directly at the information provided on the slide. And again, we have more on-demand content available on our website.